The judge was arguing with Ty why he didn't file the second amended petition on August 30th, and then argued with Ty saying that you're just trying to get around the Rule 11 agreement, weren't you? And Ty said, well, yes, because we didn't think the petition would run afoul of the Rule 11 agreement. It's not, petitions and pleadings aren't mentioned. Motions and responses to the motions are mentioned in the Rule 11 agreement. And Judge Chupp was trying to, along with John Volney, suggest that the second amended petition was a response to the motion, to the TCPA motion. And semantically, it's kind of a response, because amending pleadings is one way to actually update the evidence. Pleadings are evidence at the TCPA, right? So at the TCPA stage, pleadings are evidence. So updating a pleading is updating the evidence. Adding affidavits, or in this case, unsworn declarations, to that petition, or to the amended petition, is an update to the evidence. It's a way to put evidence into the case for the purposes of the TCPA, and lots of practitioners do it.
So it would appear that the case involving Vic Mignogna may not be entirely over, as on today's video, we have brand new information from Nick Rekieta himself that indicates that indeed there might be appeals to this case that could further favor Vic Mignogna in the overall ruling of defamation and conspiracy of defamation. But alongside that, we're also going to be taking a look at how members of the KickVic movement are not only going as far as to accuse Nick Rekieta of having to threaten to actually put people down permanently, if you get what I'm saying, but also seeing as to how the entire community is more divided now than ever before. As once more before we begin, if you are new to this channel and want to be kept up to date with all things involving Vic Mignogna, Monica Rial, Ron Toye, and many of the news and updates involving the Vic Mignogna case, then be sure to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon to never miss a single upload. Be sure to go on ahead and slap a like down below by giving this video a big thumbs up if you guys do stand with Vic, as well as making sure to check out and subscribe to my main channel over at UnrealNetwork, to where there you guys will be able to find lots of anime and Dragon Ball content that you guys will not get to find on here. And follow me at Twitter at UnrealNetwork to stay connected with me at all times. And if you have anything you would like to share or tag me in involving Vic Mignogna or any of the parties involved in this case, then be sure to go on ahead and follow me at Twitter. Now, to kick things off, we have a very interesting tweet by Renfamous over on Twitter, as Renfamous went on to state, and I quote, "Hey Nick Rekieta, you maybe want to take 10 seconds out of your stream tonight to tell your fans not to threaten to effing murder the women that you've been lying about for 6 months at Vic Mignogna. You regretting listening to this a-hole yet?" As an individual that goes by the name of Gold went on to state, and I quote, "This is not Infinity War that the appeals. Shooting the defendants is endgame. Chupp's becoming a clear example as to why, quote, God's judgment should be reintroduced." So Renfamous is suggesting the idea that it's because of Nick and many other people that are going around now threatening to, quote, shoot the defendants, which I don't condone. I don't think anybody else in this fandom condones at all. And if you do, you need help, and you need to stay away from Twitter. You need to stay away from the YouTube platform, because nobody in this case deserves to lose their lives, no matter how scummy or bad they may appear to be. Nobody in this case deserves to have their life be taken. So if you're someone going out there threatening people, that's kind of pushing the boundary, because there is no reason to go out of your way to threaten anybody, whether you're on I Stand With Vic or KickVic for that matter, being the fact that this case is going to be wrapping up, of course, with appeals having to be added, more affidavits, more evidence added to the case. It would appear that sometime between now and perhaps maybe a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months from now, this case is going to be finished, unless of course the judge rules out defamation and closes the case by the end of the 30-day mark. That's the only way the case is going to close. But nobody here deserves to have other people go around and threaten to massacre or take away somebody's life. That's egregious, that's childish, and if you do that, you have problems. Nobody in this fandom condones that. So Renfamous out here is going out of her way and stating that it's because of Nick that he was lying, and nowhere does she present any evidence of actual lies, because I hate when people claim that someone is lying but never actually points out the lies. So if she is claiming that Nick had been lying for 6 months, okay, what exactly had Nick been lying about this whole time, right? You can't present irrefutable evidence because there is none. Monica had lied, Jamie had lied, Ron had lied, so that's undeniable evidence at this point because the proof is right there. But not only that, Dominique Sky also went along to say the same thing, as Dominique tweeted out, and I quote, "This is a effing death threat, holy shit." So of course this video perhaps suggests that Ty Beard is calling for violence, as of course Christopher had suggested by having to tweet out, and I quote, "Here's something to pass around the campfire. Percy rambling and fantasizing about murder and gun violence via the beard, literally yikes. Hashtag shave the beard." So again, the implication is the fact that these people are now going around and misconstruing information, letting everyone know that Percy and Nick are calling for violence and they're calling for literal death, when I myself never heard of such a thing. And for Percy to talk about guns or perhaps gun violence but never actually directing anything towards Monica or Jamie is a little strange to me, in the fact that these people are all of a sudden pointing out the fact that Percy's doing this, to where surely enough that could be viewed as a subjective bias in the fact that he's trying to go out and call for that, but nothing in that video that was presented warrants Percy having to tell people to do such a thing. But it gets even worse, because Radio over on Twitter went along to tweet, and I quote, "Kamea-Khan put a predator on stage and pushed out someone who actually matters to the community. If you think this was an error, then you're damaged. But I think the record reflects this. But keep spending that Kickstarter money, hashtag KickVic." So again, my question is, who is that someone who actually matters to this community? I have no idea. It could be Sean Schimmel, it could be Chris Sabat, because Chris Sabat right now is also under fire, but this person is also condemning a convention for bringing on a supposed predator and kicking out those that matter. So again, all of that's subjective. People are up in arms now more so than ever, and it's because of this that now we get to see the reflection go on Twitter, where people are calling for literal actions that shouldn't be called in the first place, but not only targeting each other, but now are beginning to target conventions again, voice actors again, and even to an extent attacking each other, supporters from both groups attacking each other for such causes. And those are only 3 examples of many that I'm going to be presenting. So again, I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below about the appeals, about the possible case of defamation having to favor Vic in this situation. So again, I want to know your thoughts as to where this case is going to go and your overall opinion as to what the KickVicers are doing on Twitter. Again, if of course you guys are new to this channel, smash that subscribe button, guys, because we're going to be filling you all in with more information as the days go on by. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at UnrealNetwork. Link will be located down below. If you guys have anything to share or tag me in, you guys can go on ahead and do so. I'm going to share a very important clip from Nick Rekieta's live stream that I want you guys to sit and listen on, because it will explain more details, in-depth details as to what Nick saw and how the case looks through his point of view. So I want you guys to listen to the information provided and make up judgments of your own by the end. So again, thank you all so much for your time, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Take it easy, guys.
So a reminder that this case involves an allegation of 4 different parties being involved in a civil conspiracy to go after one guy. But the judge wanted to hear each of those parties dealt with individually. So he wanted first to start with Jamie Markey. Now, my thoughts on this are the judge probably pre-read some of the file and thought that the claims against Markey looked the weakest. That's what I've said for a while. Markey seems to have the weakest case against her, most likely to be thrown out. I didn't think he would throw out the defamation case, and the reason he did we're going to talk about. But in any case, so one way judges try to do things, I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to eliminate some of the chaff. If he thinks Markey is chaff like most of us do, he wants to get her out of that room as soon as possible. That was a joke. But no, if he thinks it's a weak case, he's going to go ahead and attack that one first. That's one way judges can do things. When you're dealing with an elaborate conspiracy, one way to do it, a different way to do it, would be to, and this is the interesting part about why this is weird, have each of the defendants make their case for why the TCPA applies. Because if we remember what the purpose of this hearing and the TCPA itself is, the defendants have a burden to show that the TCPA first applies. That's the first thing that has to be done. And that's a preponderance of the evidence standard. So how that should go is, those parties get a chance to say, here's why the TCPA applies, here's our evidence for it. And then Vic would get a chance to argue that it doesn't apply and rebut that evidence, and then the judge would rule on that. And then the next step would be the judge to determine if Vic's a public figure with arguments for and against, and again, it's a preponderance of the evidence standard, and then the judge would rule on that. He didn't do those things. After that, Vic should be allowed to make his prima facie case as to why each element of the cause of action are out there. But that's not what the judge did. The judge instead asked Markey to make, Sam Johnson, to make the case why Vic can't show a prima facie case. Very, very odd choice for when evidence cannot really be controverted. Because Vic isn't having to show a better case of evidence than Jamie Markey at this stage. Vic is only supposed to show that he has evidence for each cause of action. Now, there is an actual table of evidence for each cause of action. Shockingly, Beard, Harris, Bullock, and Hughes did create an evidence chart for each cause of action to show why this works. The judge wouldn't accept it. People ask why Ty didn't provide the judge with a tabbed list of evidence. He asked the judge to take it, and the judge said, I don't want that. I have their binder. And if that seems like it's potentially an error that may be reversible because it prejudices one party, it may be. It may be. So, that's another challenge that comes up during this hearing is, Your Honor, we have this handy list of the evidence and to show exactly why it shows a prima facie case. And the judge says, I don't want that. Instead, I want the number of tweets that Jamie Markey mentions Vic's name. Well, we don't know off the top of our heads how many that is. But this is a good point to mention something. I've heard rumors that there are people out there slagging Chup on Facebook or whatever. To the extent I have any influence over this, don't do that, please. That doesn't help anybody. And Judge Chup, by the way, if you're watching, my criticisms of you are, they're my criticisms of you, but no one should be harassing you or bothering you over these decisions. And also, we have no idea who's doing it specifically. I think one guy got called out for it or something. Don't do that. There's no benefit in that. No one should be harassing the judge anywhere or saying anything to him. Just like the defendants. Don't talk about don't engage the defendants or bother them in any way. There's no purpose to this and there's no gain. So, there you go. I guess I'll say that. I don't have any control over this. I would never call for anything like that, but I guess just if there's anybody out there who will take a reminder from me, it's not productive. Okay. So, right after the judge doesn't... So this is... One thing Ty tried to do is get a trial amendment for his unsworn declarations. That's when the judge said, I'm just going to consider the affidavits. And then I could tell at that point that Ty was a little bit rattled. Oh, I do have some notes. Right away in the hearing, I said, Chup is angry. Chup seemed angry during that Rule 11 agreement argument. To me. Right out the gate. We're talking 3 minutes into my arrival in the courtroom. Judge Chup seems very angry to be there in the first place. Let's see, the next thing I noticed was Chup reads while listening. Some people can actually read while listening. I read things while listening very often. Drives Lady Rackets crazy because we'll be at a speaker event of some sort or a study or whatever, and I'll be reading ahead listening to the speaker, because it helps me, if I'm reading, it helps me focus on the reading and the speaker and not focus on messing with a pencil or fidgeting with something or looking on a phone. Okay, so I do that. I don't know if Judge Chupp does that, but I did notice that Judge Chupp was reading while listening, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. We'll have to, we'll never know. But I noticed that at that point that Ty was kind of rattled, or appeared rattled to me by the initial rulings on the second amended petition and all of that stuff. But he did seem to be getting into a groove on Jamie Markey's defamation stuff, because we're talking Markey's defamation, and he's talking about how the statements were defamation per se and how damages are presumed. At some point, the judge said, I don't think damages are presumed on defamation per se, but they are. So that was weird. But I have this note, and I'll read this note verbatim, okay? Lemoyne smiles at me like one of his con sluts, because it took Lemoyne a little while to realize I was in the courtroom, and when he did, I got the creepiest pedo smile from that guy, and it was horrifying. It will haunt my dreams. It will haunt my dreams. It was gross. Here's the really interesting exchange that happened between Judge Sam Johnson and Ty. Okay, this was critical at the defamation stage for Jamie Markey, and this is where I credit Sam Johnson with pulling off an absolutely brilliant maneuver. Okay, Sam Johnson in his presentation has Jamie Markey's hair pulling tweet. Okay, he's discussing the hair pulling tweet with the judge, and he's talking about how Vic admitted to pulling her hair, which he didn't do. That Vic admitted to pulling a bunch of women's hair, which he didn't do. And Sam argues that by chopping out a specific segment of what Vic said and removing the rest of the context where he says, where he's not actually admitting to that. But I digress. That's what Sam Johnson did, and that's fine. He can make that argument, I guess. Actually, to be clear, he shouldn't be allowed to make this argument, because again, we're at a prima facie stage, and he doesn't get to argue against this tweet. He actually doesn't get to do that. But here he is arguing against a tweet, trying to say, nope, we have evidence that Vic did pull the hair, and we're fighting against the falsity, even though Vic is saying, I did not pull the hair. That's in the affidavit that the Chupp was considering, and the declaration. So they're arguing, Chupp is arguing with Sam Johnson about that, and he says, pulling her hair, whispering into her ear, saying something sexual, aren't those fact statements? Aren't those statements of fact? And Sam Johnson agrees that they might be. Okay? So, what does that tell you? Well, now we've got fact questions, if false and damaging, defamation. Defamation per se, if you can convince a judge that it's an accusation of a crime, like simple assault, which I believe was argued, or if it was sexual misconduct, which was also stated. In the alternative to being simple assault, it's sexual misconduct. Either of those is defamation per se. So, the judge then goes back to Ty and asks him to produce other tweets of Jamie Markey's, and specifically ones that mention Vic by name. Well, she mentions Vic by name in that tweet. I believe Ty mentioned that, although I'm not sure if it's before or after the dismissal of the claim. Things got a little weird there. But they're discussing this, and the judge just ignores that he was just talking to Sam Johnson about a tweet that has statements of fact in it about Vic Mignogna. He ignores that and then says, dismiss defamation against Jamie Markey. Out of the blue. Which is wild. Wild. That at that point, they asked for a short recess. Short recess. So he, despite discussing a tweet which directly has the defamatory material in it, he just decides that it doesn't exist and dismisses the case. What was up with the video on loop of hair pulling? Yeah, he had he had a GIF on loop of Vic when Vic was describing, it's a silent GIF, of course, of Vic describing touching Jamie's hair, saying that that was evidence of Vic pulling Jamie's hair, which I thought was very, very disingenuous, but, you know, there you go. So, they had a recess, 5 minutes to kind of, I guess, collect things, and when they came back, they again pointed to that tweet. They actually tried to produce it, and the judge said, "Are you arguing something I've already ruled on?" Again, yes, because the ruling's improper, the tweet's in the record. Just because when you ask me at a hearing if I can produce that tweet on the fly out of, you know, 1,000, 1,500 pages of evidence, can't always do that, but it's still in the record, and the judge rules dismissed on it despite that tweet, despite him just a few minutes ago arguing with opposing counsel that it may be contain statements of facts. And by the way, if the judge is arguing that there may be statements of facts that if false cause damage, that's a prima facie case. It absolutely is a prima facie case. Judge says, well, those aren't those statements of facts that may have caused damage? If you are asking that question, you need a jury to answer it, and that is prima facie. It just is. I don't know how else to say it. That is prima facie evidence of defamation. So we had another weird sort of ruling by Chup where he seemed, maybe he was distracted and forgot that that existed. I don't know. Maybe he really wanted magic words from Ty. But this is where a motion to reconsider comes in. Because an motion to reconsider is different than an appeal, okay? A motion to reconsider is where a judge issues an order and you ask that judge respectfully to reconsider his own order, and you point to something that may have been missed. Because these hearings are truncated, because, especially in this case, we've got what? Starts at 10 a.m., 11, 12, 1, 1:30, 3.5 hours to go through this 4 defendants and all of the other motion stuff. Most of the stuff didn't even get talked about at the hearing. And they still ran out of time. They still were running out of time, and Judge Chup really wrapped up the last cause of action against defamation very quickly. But they still ran out of time with this. So lots of things can get missed at a hearing that are still part of the record. So this is where that motion to reconsider comes in. You say, look, Your Honor, at the hearing we were unable to produce this, but here it is in the record, here, here, here. And this tweet, I believe, shows up several places in the record. It's there. You can go find it. Hell, the other party used it in their presentation. It's in the record. They're admitting that this tweet exists. Here it is, and they're arguing against it. So there's a potential reversible error on that dismissal of the defamation claim. And that's why I say Jamie Markey isn't actually out of this yet. I don't know if she'll be brought back in. I don't know if they'll reconsider this, but that is a remedy that's still available. That the judge improperly, in my opinion, and in the opinion of others, I'm sure, improperly dismissed the defamation claim against Jamie Markey. So, in doing so, they will have a chance to ask him to reconsider that. So then the judge comes in after the recess, and after that brief attempt to get the tweet on the record, which that was the point of bringing it up after the ruling, is to get it on the record. Like, look, we had this actually at trial, or at the hearing, and the judge didn't let it in. He just decided to rule on it, despite it being there. When they, let's see, so he dismisses that, and then he comes back, and he's arguing about liking a post doesn't make it a conspiracy, okay? Here's what the judge was really, this was an interesting thing that the judge seemed to be doing. He seemed to be very, very interested in condensing and simplifying some of these arguments. Well, the conspiracy argument is strange. Ty mentions at some point during the conspiracy argument that it's not just that Jamie Markey liked a post. She retweeted posts, and retweets are specific statements. And the judge actually kind of went along with that, although not in regards to a conspiracy. He was saying, if I retweet something or if I restate something someone else says is defamatory, if I do that, then I'm making that statement, and he actually said, and I should be on the hook for it. Okay? Now, Lemoyne obviously would disagree with that and say that Section 230 covers it. So there's another statement. There's another statement by the judge that the other party, had they lost, would be bristling about. And by the way, Lemoyne actually probably did lose. I still think that Ron and Monica, I think their defamation claims are going through. Their TI claims were dismissed, and not due to Jay Sean's prowess. I think actually he was the worst lawyer in the room. No matter what you think of Ty, the judge was not happy with Jay Sean at all, and he barely said anything. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So he's arguing about liking the posts and stuff like that, not being a conspiracy just because you like the post. But of course, that's not the argument. Ty mentions the Discord server, which the name of it eludes me, but it's something about ruining Vic Mignogna and that Jamie Markey's in the Discord server, and the judge is like, I don't care. So again, we have potential evidence of a conspiracy for the Discord server, and the judge just kind of ignores it and sticks on his track of saying, well, liking tweets and stuff like that don't matter. It's at this point the judge says, you must have a plan to do something. Show me the conspiracy. He wanted Ty to produce evidence of the plan that they haven't been able to get because they haven't been able to do discovery, right? But he wanted Ty to produce evidence of the plan from before they enacted the plan. This is a tough call on conspiracy, okay? Because most people don't say, let's conspire to ruin someone via this plan, right? That's not how most conspiracies go. And that's the standard that Chup seemed to want to apply to this. But again, that looks more like a preponderance of the evidence standard, right? Preponderance of the evidence standard that he's looking for. He's saying, look, I know you've got evidence of her being in this Discord. I know you've got evidence of her liking and retweeting stuff. I know you've got direct message statements I think were brought up about Jamie Markey. You've got this, but I want to know the plan. Well, Your Honor, that's something we need discovery for, because we can infer there was a plan based on these facts, and a rational inference is what is needed for a prima facie case. We can infer it. We can infer it based on the outcome. We can infer it based on their behavior. We can infer it based on this Discord server that says that they're trying to ruin Vic or whatever. We can infer all that from these things, but we can't show you the plan yet because that's trying the case. And the other party is going to argue, and the other party, of course, is arguing, oh, yeah, they need to show the plan. But that's not where we are. We're at TCPA, prima facie level, not preponderance of the evidence. So the judge throws out the conspiracy charge, but he does say specifically at this point, and this I think is one of those lines that many people might be overlooking. Many people are overlooking, is he specifically says, even at this point, this is early in the hearing still. I know it's taking me a long time to talk about it, but it's early in the hearing. The judge says, look, I may not dismiss the claims against the other parties at this point. I may not dismiss them. So, he drops these little breadcrumbs throughout the hearing. And this is why I think that there's a lot more to him not ruling on these defamation claims at this point than some people are giving credit for. Okay? So let me do a couple more super chats. But he very specifically said, I may not be dismissing things against other parties.